Hello there and welcome back to my channel. In this week's video I'm going to share with you my 10 tips to help you stay productive. Are you feeling a bit overwhelmed? Have you got a bit too much to do and yet you keep being given more stuff to do? Does your to-do list feel like it's never ending, like the painting of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco? You are not alone, my friend, far from it. So this is an issue that comes up in pretty much every coaching session with my management and leadership clients. And hey, look, I've read tons of books and articles, watched pretty much every YouTube video and listened to every podcast there is out there about productivity. Bit of procrastination going on. Ironic, right? But the various gems I've discovered over the years, I'm going to share with you today, just like I've shared with my clients over the years. But before we go any further, have you subscribed to this channel? Have you? Don't worry if you haven't. Click the bell and you'll get a new video from me filled to the brim with psychology-based tips to help you thrive and shine in work and in life. I'm Hayley Lewis, I'm a business psychologist and I've helped thousands of managers and leaders over the last 20 years kind of increase their confidence, motivate their teams and go on to even better levels of performance. Okay, so here are my top 10 tips to help you feel a little more zen and a little less zany. So this was one of the most useful exercises I came across from the book The Productivity Ninja by Graham Alcott. In the book he says, when you're using your brain to try and remember everything, you're making it work extra hard, you're making life harder on yourself, and you're using vital energy which would be better spent on actually doing what it is you need to do. So for example, I now have a big spreadsheet, a master spreadsheet, which is live, and any new thing that comes up I simply pop it on the spreadsheet so it kind of gets out of my head. And if I'm out and about and a to-do comes up, I'll simply make a voice note on my phone, and then early kind of opportunity I have, I'll then kind of take it from the voice note and add it to the spreadsheet. Job done. So tip number 2 is prioritise what's important, and prioritise what's important to you. So many managers I work with are being caught up in other people's urgency and other people's kind of importance and priorities. And that's why kind of they end up working long hours just to keep on top of their own stuff. So some of you will know the prioritization technique from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So one of the habits is called First Things First, and he creates a nice little 4-box model where you categorize kind of everything you've got to do based on importance and urgency. And look, this helps you separate the wheat from the chaff, the wood from the trees, the important from the inane, and it also helps you think a bit more carefully and work out if simply someone else is urgent, and B, if work is better done by you, or actually if it's something that you can delegate. I have a free download for you at the end of this video. I know I'm very good, which will help you try this particular tip out. So if you want to download it, just go into the details section that accompanies this video. So tip number 3 is be intentional. One of the most simple yet without a doubt the most profound frameworks I've come across is what I call the 3A framework, and it's outlined in Caroline Webb's excellent book How to Have a Good Day at Work. Basically you're asking yourself some questions around aim, attitude and attention. So it means you can be much more mindful about how you plan and how you go about your day. Put more simply, you're asking yourself, what would a great day look like for me today? What 3 things would I have achieved? And it can be a great way to kind of reset your productivity compass. Tip number 4 is ask the challenging question. So do you work in an organisation where everything is urgent and massive, and it's a priority now? You know, does your boss always come up with even more things for you to do than you started at the beginning of the day? Well, look, if you answered yes to these questions, again, you're not alone in that. But being able to push back in an elegant way is an essential skill, I think, for anybody at work. And yes, you can do this and still keep your job, I promise. It's an approach that I used to use myself when I was a busy senior manager in a big corporate environment. And look, by always having a live list of everything you and your team are working on means that the next time your boss just taps you on the shoulder and says, could you just, gently yet firmly ask them which of the other priorities that you and your team are working on would they like you to either put on hold or maybe stop altogether in order to refocus efforts and resources on this new thing. In my experience, this makes people think a little bit more carefully and deeply about A, whether they really do need you to do that thing, and B, do they need you to do it now? Tip number 5 is weekly planning. So blocking out time for the week ahead is essential. Without this, you're far more likely to get caught up in the tyranny of other people's urgent and kind of crises. And a useful question to ask yourself is, if there were 3 key things I wanted to achieve this week, what would they be and why? And once you've identified the most important things to focus on, you can then make time in your week for those. You can schedule them into your diary. And by making that time, this might well include declining some of the many meetings I'm sure have popped up in your diary for the week ahead. Some of those you really won't need to go to. Tip number 6 is about the power of buffer time or white space. So many managers that I've worked with over the years have said, without a doubt, this is one of the most helpful things that they've done to help them kind of keep productive, maintain their energy levels and just get stuff done. On average, most people who've done this have said that blocking an hour into their diaries with nothing in and marking it private so that other people can't see has been a bit of a lifeline. So it's either helped by giving extra time for a task that maybe has taken a little bit longer than expected, or it's helped with an unexpected crisis that's kind of come in during the day out of nowhere, or it's simply enabled the person to catch up with a colleague, have some lunch, watch that, TED talk. So if having buffer time each day feels a little bit too overwhelming at this point, how about a few times a week? Or even once a week. For example, Friday is my buffer time where I can kind of catch up on stuff. Tip number 7 is focus on your energy. So in his book, The Productivity Project, Chris Bailey talks about getting over the outdated notion of time management. This is a concept that stems from kind of the Industrial Revolution, where kind of many of us were in employment where we were paid for how much stuff we did in an hour. And in today's world, where it's more about the knowledge economy, it's about the creativity and the knowledge and the quality of ideas that we bring. And in order to be creative and problem solve and build and maintain work relationships, we really need to have sufficient reserves of energy. So where possible, try and book meetings and tasks around your energy. For example, I used to have one-to-one meetings with my team members, ideally in the morning, because that's when I tended to have better levels of energy. When my energy is lower later on in the day, I kind of leave that time for admin type tasks, things that don't require me to put loads of thought in. Tip number 8 is use your calendar for time blocking. So many managers I work with have allowed their diary to be at the mercy of other people, and in particular other people's meetings. So it's no wonder then that so many of them are having to wait until they get home to do their real work. So one tactic that can be useful is to block out time in your diary for project work, but mark it private. And unless you've given people certain permissions, other people won't see what it is, and hence most people tend to assume it's a meeting, it's a private meeting you've got. And look, if somebody does cheekily send a meeting invite in spite of you having that private thing in your diary, you can push back and say you're not available at that time, but you are free at another time. This worked pretty much every time I did this when I worked in a corporate role, as I know it has for other managers. So it just requires you to just try it out and be a little bit brave. Tip number 9 is about working in batches. By chunking things together, I guarantee you'll get more done. So for example, if it's appraisal time, which I know it is for some of you watching this, why not do the writing up of your appraisals all in one hit? So schedule a big chunk of time and just get it all done in one hit. By doing this, you're more likely to remain in the right headspace and in the flow of work. There's nothing worse, is there, than kind of doing that for a little bit and then doing something else, and you just interrupt yourself and never quite kind of get in that flow. So when you do work in snatches of time here and there, you're just far less likely to kind of keep your momentum going. And ironically, doing things in snatches is probably going to take you far longer than if you carved out a chunk of time, say 2 hours, and did that thing all in one hit. So for me, Mondays is my day for all things marketing for my business. So that's writing blog posts, that's creating downloads and filming videos like this. And so look, the final tip number 10, is challenge yourself. So I think most of us have a competitive spirit, and so a really useful technique to try out is the Pomodoro technique, which allows you to work in 25-minute chunks. So you put a timer on and then you have a 5-minute break. So there are various apps you can download, although I use the timer on Google. And personally I prefer to work in 45-minute or 90-minute chunks, just because of the nature of some of the stuff that I'm doing. Although I do sometimes use the kind of shorter 25-minute, 5-minute break Pomodoro approach for things like tackling email or kind of admin tasks. And knowing the timer is going to go off at any minute gives me a bit of an adrenaline rush. I feel like Jack Bauer in 24, and it kind of really helps me stay focused on task, because I don't want to lose against the beeper when it goes off. So what kind of tips and tricks help you remain productive? As I've said in previous videos, you have a lot of wisdom to share. So if you've got any tips that I didn't cover today, why not put them in the comments box below? And if you liked any of my tips, or you've tried them out and subsequently you're like, hey, that really works, again, put it in the comments box below and tell me how it's gone. And again, why not grab the free download I mentioned to help you better prioritise what's important from what's not, and you can access the link to that in the detail of this video. And look, sharing is caring, so if you liked this video and you think other people might benefit, first of all, give it a big old thumbs up. I will love you forever. Secondly, share with your friends, share with your colleagues. And thirdly, if you haven't already subscribed to my weekly videos, please make sure you hit the bell. That's it from me for now, and I'll see you in next week's video.